Chapter 1. The Unseen Blade, Why Your Judgments Cut Deeper Than Any Sword. There's a sound, just beneath the creak of your bed, beneath the sigh of the night wind outside your window. A sound like a blade being slowly, deliberately drawn from its sheath. Not a sound meant for battlefields, but for the quiet battlefield, right here, within the four walls of your own mind. Tonight, we unsheathe something ancient, something Epictetus, that old slave turned philosopher, carried like a hidden weapon, a weapon not of steel, but of perception. What if the sharpest blade you wield isn't in your hand, but in the quiet, unseen judgments you make about everything that touches your life? What if that blade is the one cutting you deepest night after night? Listen to the quiet scrape of it now. Imagine Epictetus, not the revered teacher, not yet. Picture him earlier, a slave. His body owned, his freedom a distant dream. Chains clank, not just on his wrists, but around the very idea of his life. What control did he truly have? The weather, cruel masters, the ache in his muscles? Nothing, less than nothing. And yet, he found a freedom so profound, so unassailable, that even Roman emperors couldn't touch it. Where could such a treasure hide when the whole world seemed designed to crush you? He found it. In the one place no chains could reach, the citadel within, the silent forge where judgments are hammered out. See his hands, rough, perhaps calloused from labor. But watch his eyes. They don't dart in fear. They hold a peculiar stillness. He's watching, not just the world outside, but the world inside reacting to it. The master shouts. Is the shout itself a terrible thing? Or is the terrible thing the judgment he makes about it? This is unbearable. This ruins me. This proves I am nothing. That internal whisper, that is the blade being drawn. That is the cut. The shout is just sound, air moving. The judgment is the hand that grips the blade and plunges it deep into his own peace. Feel the weight of your own thoughts tonight. That frustration simmering from the day. Wasn't it born the moment you judged the traffic unacceptable, the email insulting, the delay catastrophic? We do it constantly, don't we? We take the raw clay of an event and we sculpt it into a monster, a disaster, a personal affront. Epictetus whispers across the centuries, his voice as dry as old parchment yet warm as embers. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. The event is just the event, the judgment. That's the sculptor. That's the blade. That's the prison guard locking the door from the inside. What happens, dear listener, to the soul that never learns to lay down this unseen blade? It walks through life perpetually wounded, flinching at shadows, bleeding peace onto the pavement of everyday annoyances, mistaking its own self-inflicted cuts for the blows of the world. Its nights become a restless replay of battles fought only in the echoing chambers of its own judgments. It never truly rests, because it never truly disarms. But you're listening now. You've felt the scrape of that blade. Imagine, just imagine, the profound, almost terrifying silence, the immense space that opens up when you simply observe the event without instantly judging it good or bad. When you let the traffic be traffic, the email be words, the delay be time passing, the blade rests, unused. The hand, your own hand, relaxes. And the chains, those internal chains forged by your own hasty verdicts, they begin to feel lighter, like mist dissolving before dawn. This is the first lost whisper, the freedom found not in changing the world, but in mastering the hidden forge within, Feel the quietness spreading where the blade once bit, a softness replacing the sharp edge, like moonlight filling a room where a harsh lamp has just been turned off. And in that quietness, in the space left when the constant judging slows, another sound emerges, not the scrape of a blade, but the crackle, the insistent, hungry crackle of fire. Not one fire, but two, burning low, deep within, shaping every desire, every flinch of fear. What fuels them? And why? Why would Epictetus tell us some fires we're simply not allowed to put out? The path grows softer underfoot now, leading deeper into the grove. Chapter 2. The fires you're not allowed to put out. When wanting less becomes having more. Can you hear them? Two distinct fires. One burns with a restless, flickering orange light, the fire of desire. It whispers, if only, and more, and soon. The other, this one burns colder, a bluish flame, the fire of aversion. It hisses, not that, and away, and never. They are the twin furnaces of the human soul, Epictetus would say. They never sleep. They shape our days and haunt our nights. We spend our lives desperately feeding one, desperately trying to smother the other, chasing the orange flame's promises, fleeing the blue flame's warnings, exhausted, always. What if the path to peace isn't about quenching these fires, but about learning which fires are ours to tend and which ones we must simply let burn, untended, on someone else's hearth? What if true abundance lies not in gaining the world, but in releasing your desperate grip on the things the world dangles just out of reach? Picture Epictetus again. Freedom now, perhaps, but still, life happens, illness, betrayal, loss, the death of friends. The fire of desire rages. I want health. I want loyalty. I want them back. The fire of aversion roars. I hate this pain. I reject this loneliness. Make it stop. See him, not raging against the inevitable, not drowning in the blue flame of this shouldn't be, but turning his gaze inward. Not to extinguish the longing or the pain, but to ask a different question, a question so simple it cuts through the smoke. Is this within my power? The health of the body, the actions of others, the relentless march of time, the finality of death? His shoulders might slump just for a moment. A sigh, deep and ancient, escapes him. No, these things, they are not his to command. They belong to the indifferent loom of the universe, weaving patterns he cannot control, trying to command them, trying to pour fuel on the fire of desire for the uncontrollable, or frantically beating at the blue flame of aversion towards the inevitable. That is the furnace that consumes peace. That is the true slavery. He turns instead towards the things that are within the circle of his own small, powerful firelight, his judgments, his desires, but only his desires concerning what is truly his own domain, his aversions, but only towards the corruptions of his own character, wanting only virtue, averting only vice, judging events with clear, unflinching eyes. That fire, the fire of disciplined intention, that he tends. The other fires, the ones raging over external things, over other people's choices, over fate's cruel twists, he lets them burn. He acknowledges their heat, but he doesn't throw his precious oil, his peace, his focus, his soul onto them. He draws a circle in the dirt around only what is his. Inside that circle, he is king. Outside, the world rages, but it cannot touch his sovereignty unless he invites it in by demanding it be different. Think of your own restless nights. How often is the tossing and turning fueled by feeding the wrong fire? pouring the oil of your anxiety onto the blue flame of, why did they say that? Why did this happen? It shouldn't be this way. Or stoking the orange flame of, if only I had that job, that house, that recognition, that perfect tomorrow. The heat is immense. It warps the air. It makes sleep impossible. What happens to the soul that never learns the discipline of the inner circle? It becomes a servant to every wind, chasing phantom fuels for fires it cannot control, perpetually burned, perpetually empty. Its life becomes a frantic dance around blazes that consume its essence but give no lasting warmth. But you sense the boundary now, the circle. Feel the immense relief, the almost scandalous lightness of letting go the desire for the uncontrollable, of releasing the aversion to the inevitable. It's not indifference, it's profound focus. It's redirecting that fierce, vital energy inward, tending the small, bright fire of your own character, your own choices, your own judgments, wanting only to be courageous in the face of what is, wanting only to be just in your actions, wanting only to accept what the universe brings. Suddenly, wanting less feels like possessing everything. The frantic hunger cools, the desperate fleeing slows. A deep, quiet warmth, the warmth of self-possession, begins to radiate from that carefully tended inner flame. It's not the roaring heat of grasping desire. It's the steady, comforting glow of enough. Feel that warmth spreading now, a gentle counterpoint to the cool night air. A hearth built not of stone, but of quiet understanding. And around that steady inner flame, shadows gather. Not threatening shadows, but shapes, forms emerging from the dark. Some seem harsh, jagged, obstacles, suffering, loss, things that make the blue flame of aversion leap. But look closer, by the light of your own tended fire. Do those jagged edges glint, almost like the facets of a whetstone? What if the very things we flinch from are the stones meant to sharpen our souls? What rough grace waits in the embrace of the inevitable? The path dips down now, towards the river's edge, where stones lie smooth and waiting. Chapter 3. The stone that sharpens your soul. How suffering whispers, what joy screams. Close your eyes, not to sleep, not yet, but to feel the texture of your own life. Feel the smooth stretches, the moments of ease, of comfort, of joy. Warm sun, laughter, success. They feel good, don't they? Like polished river stones, cool and comforting in the hand. Now, feel the rough patches, the friction, the loss that scraped you raw, the failure that left you breathless, the betrayal that cut deep, the illness that humbled. Those stones, they feel different, jagged, harsh, unwelcome. We recoil, we push them away. We pour all our aversion onto them. No, not this. Take it away. But Epictetus, he watched life, his own and others, with the eyes of a stonecutter. He saw something hidden in the harshness, a terrible, beautiful secret. The raw material of the virtuous life is your own specific life, with all its twists, its pains, its obstacles. That loss, that betrayal, that illness, they are not interruptions to your path. They are the path. They are the whetstones offered up by a universe indifferent to your comfort, but perfectly designed for your edge. Imagine him facing exile or the death of a child. The weight is immense, crushing. The blue flame of aversion roars, "This is evil, unjust, unbearable." But Epictetus breathes. He doesn't deny the pain. He feels its cold granite weight. But then, he turns the stone in his hands. He looks at its facets. "What does this make possible?" he asks, his voice low but steady in the storm of grief. "What virtue lies dormant within me? that only this stone can awaken. The stone of exile, it sharpens self-reliance. The stone of loss, it hones compassion to a razor's edge. The stone of betrayal, it tempers discernment. The stone of physical limitation, it forges patience and endurance like tempered steel. He doesn't seek the stone. The universe delivers them, unbidden, often brutal. But he uses them. He leans into the friction, not with masochism, but with the focused intent of a craftsman. Here's the stone. Now, let me see what edge I can find within myself against it. Courage isn't born on sunny days. Resilience isn't forged in comfort. The profound depths of our humanity, our true strength, our empathy, our unshakable core, are carved out by the very things we most wish to avoid. Joy sings loudly, proclaiming its gifts, but suffering whispers. It whispers the hardest truths, the deepest lessons, the most potent invitations to grow. It asks the quiet, terrifying question, who will you become in the face of me? Think of your own sharpening stones, that heartbreak, that career setback, that health scare. In the moment, they felt like pure destruction. But look back, with the softer eyes of this quiet night. Did something in you shift, harden, soften, deepen? Did you discover a resilience you didn't know you had? A compassion you couldn't have learned any other way? A clarity about what truly matters? That is the stone's work, the soul that flees every stone, that curses the friction, that demands only smooth, river-polished comfort, remains forever blunt, untested. Its potential, its true, fierce, beautiful edge, lies dormant, untouched. It sleeps perhaps, but its sleep is shallow, easily disturbed by the next inevitable ripple in life's stream. It never knows the quiet, earned confidence that comes from having been honed. But you've felt the scrape of the stone. You know its bite. Tonight, in this quiet, can you feel, not the pain anew, but the subtle edge it left behind, the strength, the depth, the understanding? That edge, it's yours, forged in fire and friction, a quiet power. Epictetus's final whisper isn't about seeking suffering. It's about recognizing the alchemy hidden within it. The universe doesn't give you stones to break you. It gives you stones to reveal you, to shape you, to make your soul sharp enough, to cut through the illusions of the world and touch the enduring truth beneath. Feel the weight of that understanding now, not a burden, but an anchor, solid, real, holding you steady in the quiet dark, the sharp, quiet strength of a soul being honed by simply living. 3 whispers carried on night air, from a crippled slave who found an empire within. The blade of judgment laid down, the fires of desire and aversion, tended only where the flame answers to your hand. The harsh stones of circumstance, recognized as tools for an edge you never knew you needed. These aren't secrets for philosophers locked in dusty halls. They are maps drawn in the quiet language of your own breath for the journey every soul takes through the beautiful, brutal, bewildering landscape of being human. They don't promise a life without storms. They offer an anchor, forged in understanding, cast deep into the bedrock of what you truly control. Your judgments, your choices, your character, your response to the stones life throws. That anchor holds. It holds through the howling winds of external chaos. It holds so you can rest, so you can breathe, so you can sleep. Not as an escape, but as a return to that inner citadel, where the only light is the steady, tended flame of your own quiet sovereignty. The wind hums low outside, The world turns, events unfold. But here, within the circle drawn by centuries of whispered wisdom, here you are free. Let that freedom, the profound, unshakable freedom of the inner realm, be the blanket that settles over you now, heavy, warm, impervious to the night. Breathe in, the quiet mastery of perception. Breathe out, the futile grasp for the uncontrollable. Feel the stones beneath you, not as obstacles, but as the solid earth. Your anchor holds. Sleep isn't surrender. It's the quiet affirmation that the citadel stands guard. Rest now. The whispers will keep watch. Rest deeply, knowing the truest blade, the fiercest fire, the sharpest edge is yours to command. Within, let the dark carry you all the way home. Chapter 4. The Lantern. The Storm. Why your panic is a mismatched key. Hush now, lean closer to the faint, guttering flame. Can you feel it? That tightness behind your ribs when the world outside howls? The frantic scrabbling against things you cannot move? What if I told you that very panic is a key turned in the wrong lock? Epictetus, the philosopher whose words were nearly lost to the Roman dust, saw it clearly. We exhaust ourselves fighting storms we were never meant to calm. He drew a line, simple, stark, yet life-altering, right down the center of existence. Within our power, our judgments, our desires, our aversions, the movements of our own soul. Beyond it, the body, property, reputation, office, the vast, churning sea of circumstance. Most of our nights are shattered, dear listener, not by the storm itself, but by the furious, futile rattling of the locked door we wish was ours to open. We burn our lantern oil raging against the wind, while the true key, the one to inner stillness, lies forgotten in our own pocket, cool and smooth. Imagine it, not a grand theory, but a quiet realization settling like dust motes in a sunbeam slanting through a slave's quarters. Epictetus knew chains. He knew the lash of a master's whim. Yet in that crucible of powerlessness, he forged an astonishing freedom. His freedom wasn't found in breaking literal chains. That lay beyond his control. It was found in the silent, inviolable chamber of his prohairesis, his will, his choice, his inner citadel. When the master raged, Epictetus chose not to be consumed by the rage. When fate stripped him bare, he chose not to define himself by the stripping. He turned his lantern inward, illuminating only what he could tend. The flame of his own reason, the garden of his own judgments. The storm raged on, undeniable, immense, yet it raged outside the walls he truly inhabited. This is the first whisper, the first mending stitch for your fractured night. Your suffering doesn't live in the event. It lives in your belief about the event. That frantic heartbeat when the email doesn't come, that's you trying to command the tides. That nod of dread about tomorrow's meeting, that's you, mistaking the weather for your responsibility. Epictetus would offer not a bromide, but a profound liberation. Identify the lock. Is this truly yours to open? Feel the weight of the mismatched key in your hand, the panic, the worry, the desperate need to fix the unfixable. Now, let it drop. Hear the soft thud on the ancient stone floor, the sound of a burden released. The storm hasn't ceased, but now you stand inside your citadel, lantern held steady, conserving your light for the only door that ever mattered, the one within. Feel the space that opens? That's the beginning of peace, breathing in the quiet dark. Sleep doesn't demand the storm's end. It only asks you to stop trying to be the storm's master. Let the wind howl. Tend your inner flame. This is the first lost lesson. discern the lock, carry only the key that fits, and yet. What happens when the storm isn't outside but within? When the judgments themselves turn feral, gnawing at the edges of that hard-won stillness? The next whisper isn't about the world's chaos, but the silent sculptor living behind your own eyes, the one shaping your reality from mere shadows and clay. Chapter 5. The Sculptor in the Shadows. How your judgments carve your reality. Listen beyond the wind, in the deeper quiet. Can you hear it? The faint tap, 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 like a chisel on marble in the dead of night. That, my friend, is the sound of your own mind. Epictetus saw it with terrifying clarity. We are not merely observers of the world, but its relentless, often unconscious sculptors. Every event is raw stone, cold, neutral, inert. But then, we lift the chisel. We call it good or bad, disaster or delight. We carve grooves of meaning into the featureless block, shaping not just our perception, but the very weight of the stone upon our soul. Men are disturbed not by things, he whispered across centuries, but by the views which they take of them. That missed opportunity? It's just an event until you carve catastrophe into its surface. That sharp word from a loved one? Just sound waves until you etch rejection deep into its core. The sculptor in the shadows works ceaselessly, often by lamplight so dim we mistake its creations for reality itself. This is the second haunting truth, the one that explains why two souls can walk through the same fire and emerge bearing utterly different scars. One sees only ash, the other finds the hardened steel beneath. Picture a simple scene Epictetus might have known. Two travelers on a dusty Roman road. Rain begins to fall. One traveler groans, shoulders slumping, face etched with misery. Disaster, the mud, the chill, ruined clothes. The other simply pulls his cloak tighter, lifts his face slightly, perhaps even smiles faintly at the coolness on his skin. Water for the fields, he might murmur, cleansing the dust. The rain is the same. The stone is identical, but the sculptors within them wield vastly different tools. The first traveler carved bad with brutal strokes, creating a heavy, sodden burden. The second carved, perhaps not good, but simply is. He left the stone lighter, less defined. This is the profound power, the terrifying responsibility. Epictetus places in your hands each moment you hold the chisel. The event is given. The judgment is yours. That argument replaying in your mind like a broken chant, you are carving it, stroke by agonizing stroke, making it heavier, sharper, more real than the fleeting moment ever was. That worry about the future? You are sculpting a monstrous looming shape from the formless mist of the unknown. The sculptor never rests, especially in the vulnerable hours before sleep. Its tap, tap, tap becomes the soundtrack of our unrest. But Epictetus offers the lamp. Become aware of the sculptor. See your hand on the chisel. Feel the weight of the tool. Ask in the stillness, what am I carving onto this bare stone? Is this the shape I choose to live with? Is this the burden I wish to carry into my dreams? The power lies not in stopping the rain, but in choosing how you carve the experience of being wet. Release the chisel of catastrophe. Pick up the gentler tool of occurrence, or perhaps even opportunity. Feel the stone lighten? That's the phantom weight dissolving. This is the second lost lesson. You are the sculptor. Choose your chisel with care, for it carves the world you inhabit, especially in the quiet dark. Let the tap, tap, tap become the sound of conscious creation, not unconscious dread. But what of the blows that land true? The losses that are real? The pains that bite deep? When the sculptor's hand trembles and the stone cracks of its own accord, the final whisper isn't about control or judgment alone. It's about the alchemy of acceptance, the secret strength found not in defiance, but in a profound, almost sacred yielding. Chapter 6. The Alchemy of Yielding, where broken plans bloom into strange peace. There's a sound, quieter than the sculptor's chisel, deeper than the storm's roar. It's the soft sigh of release, the sound a branch makes when it bends under snow instead of snapping. Epictetus, the man who knew loss as intimately as his own breath, spoke of a power far greater than resistance, amor fati, the love of fate. Not a passive resignation, not a numb surrender, but a fierce, active embrace of what is. Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, he urged, but wish for events to happen as they do happen, and your life will go well. Imagine that, not gritting your teeth against the current, but turning to face it, to swim with it, to find the strange currents within the torrent that might carry you somewhere unforeseen. This isn't optimism. It's realism forged in the hottest fire. It's recognizing that the universe unfolds according to its own vast, intricate logic, not our personal, fragile scripts. The broken plan, the lost love, the unexpected illness, fighting their existence is like shouting at the tide. It exhausts you and changes nothing. But embracing them, that is the alchemy. That is where the base metal of despair is transmuted into the gold of unshakable peace. Think of a river stone, smooth, cool, resting deep in the current. It doesn't rage against the water. It doesn't try to be a mountain peak. It yields utterly to the river's flow, and in that yielding, the river shapes it, polishes it, reveals its hidden colors and veins. Resistance would only fracture it. Epictetus asks you to be that stone, not passive, but profoundly accepting. When the diagnosis comes, the true suffering begins not with the illness, but with the inner scream. This shouldn't be. This isn't fair. This ruins everything. That scream is the sculptor carving agony onto the bare fact. Amor fati is the quiet voice that says, "It is. Now, how shall I live within this fact? What strength, what compassion, what unexpected beauty might be revealed because of this current?" It's the parent, heart shattered by a child's pain, who stops railing against the universe and instead finds a depth of tenderness and presence they never knew they possessed. It's the artist whose grand vision fails, only to discover a raw, truer voice in the rubble. It's you, lying awake, the carefully laid plans of the day in ashes. Amor fati whispers, "The ashes are real. The fire happened. Now, what grows in fertile ground, scorched clean?" This yielding is not weakness. It is the ultimate strength. It takes the shards of what should have been, and, instead of trying to glue them back into a broken mirror, lets them scatter. In that scattering, it sees the moonlight glinting on each fragment, creating a new, unexpected constellation on the floor of your soul. The clenched fist opens. The breath you didn't know you were holding releases. This is the third lost lesson. The deepest healing. Embrace the river. Love the unfolding. Find the unbreakable peace that lives not in controlling the stream, but in becoming utterly fluid, utterly present within its ceaseless flow. Let the broken plan become fertile ground. Sleep comes not when the river stops, but when you finally stop fighting its current. Rest now. The river knows the way. So let these whispers settle, the mismatched key released, the sculptor's hand grown gentle, the yielding to the river's ancient song. Epictetus's lantern wasn't lit to banish the night, but to show you where you truly stand within it. The storm may rage, the sculptor may stir, the river will flow, but your citadel is quiet. Your chisel is yours to choose. Your yielding is your strength. Rest within these walls. The night holds no terror that this peace cannot gently enfold. Sleep deep. Let the mending begin. Chapter 7. The Unlockable Cage. Why your prison door was never locked. Imagine, just for a moment, that everything you ever felt trapped by, the gnawing anxiety, the frustration that knots your shoulders, the heavy disappointment that settles in your chest like cold lead, imagine all of it exists only in a cage you hold the key to, not some rusty, ancient key lost to time, but a key warm from your own hand, pressed right now against your own skin. Does that feel impossible? Like a whisper too kind to be true? That's the first secret Epictetus guards, the one most miss, the one that changes everything. What if the prison you pace inside, the one with bars forged from worry, walls built of what-ifs, and a floor cold with regret, has no lock? What if the door, that heavy, imposing door you rattle every night, swings open at the gentlest touch of your own understanding? What happens to a soul that spends its life shaking a door? Already open? Close your eyes. Feel the weight of the blanket, the quiet hum of the night settling around you like soft ash. Picture not a grand Roman villa, but a simple room. Bare stone floor, cool against bare feet. A single oil lamp, its flame a tiny persistent heart beating against the shadows. And there, an old man, not robed in silk, but in the plain, worn cloth of someone who has known labor, known servitude. His body carries the memory of chains, Epictetus, born a slave. His freedom came later, a legal formality. But the true freedom, the one that echoes in his voice centuries later, was forged in that crucible of having nothing the world values. He learned, bone deep, the difference between the cage around the body and the cage within the mind. One was iron, imposed. The other, woven from thoughts. Thoughts we cling to like lifelines, not realizing they are the very threads of our confinement. Think of something right now that feels utterly beyond your control. That worry gnawing, that resentment simmering, that future fear casting its long shadow. Feel its weight, its solidity? It presses down, doesn't it? Feels real as stone. Now, listen to the old man in the lamplight, his voice low, patient, like water smoothing stone. Some things are within our power, he murmurs, while others are not. Simple, almost too simple. Deceptively so. We hear it, we nod, we think we understand. But do we feel it? Within our power, he continues, the flame flickering in his eyes, our opinion, motivation, desire, aversion. In short, whatever are our own actions, our judgments, our choices about what things mean, and the rest? Not within our power are our body, our property, reputation, office. In short, whatever are not our own actions. The world outside, other people's thoughts, the roll of dice, the storm that grounds a ship, the praise, or the cutting word, the cage door. It's right there. See it? It's the moment you confuse what is yours to command, your inner citadel, with the relentless, uncontrollable tide of the external world. When you chain your peace to the weather, to the mood of a stranger, to the stock market, to the echo of an old hurt you didn't choose. That's the lock snapping shut. That's the prison you furnish yourself. Epictetus leans closer, the scent of the oil lamp sharp and ancient. If you think that things which are slaves to others are your own, then you will be hindered. You will lament. You will be disturbed. You will find fault with both gods and men. Lament, disturbed, finding fault. Does that landscape feel familiar? Like the territory of your restless nights? You built a cage for things you could never own, never command. And then you stepped inside, bewildered by your own captivity. Picture a ship caught in a storm. The wind howls like a wounded beast. The waves are mountains crashing down. The timbers groan under the strain. The sailor, what is truly his? Can he command the wind? Be still. Can he flatten the sea? Be calm. He would be a fool to try. His power lies elsewhere, in the grip of his hands on the rudder, in the quickness of his mind assessing the waves, in the resilience of his spirit facing the terror. He tends to his sphere, his actions, his judgments. The storm is terrible, but I am not yet broken. My task is to steer, to endure, to make for calmer water if I can. He doesn't waste his soul raging against the wind. He uses it. He navigates with it or against it. But he knows its nature. It is external. It is indifferent. His peace is internal, forged in the acceptance of what is and the fierce focus on what he can do within that reality. Your storm might be a difficult person, a lost opportunity, a pain in the body, a fear for tomorrow. The principle is the same. The cage door rattles, not when the storm rages, but when you scream at the wind to stop being wind. When you stake your inner calm on the impossible demand that the world rearrange itself to soothe you, the unlockable cage, the door swings open on the sigh of letting go, not resignation, not defeat, a profound, almost sacred acknowledgement. This is the storm. This is the wave. This is the difficult word spoken, the opportunity lost, the ache in the bone. It is. Now, what is mine? Only this, my judgment of it, my response, my next small, deliberate action. Will I call it a disaster and crumble? Or will I call it a challenge and adjust my sails? Will I let it poison my inner well? Or will I drink from the spring of my own resolve? The key turns not by changing the world, but by realizing deep in the marrow where your true kingdom lies. It's smaller than you imagined, infinitely more powerful, guarded only by your own attention. Tonight, as you drift, feel the weight lift, not because the world has changed, but because you've finally stopped trying to carry the ocean. You've set down the impossible burden of controlling the uncontrollable, and the door, it was always open. Step out. The night air is cool. The stars are indifferent and breathtakingly beautiful. Your prison was built of misplaced ownership. Your freedom lies in knowing what is truly yours. Tend your inner flame. The wind may blow, but it cannot extinguish what you shelter within. And so the first lock falls away, a soft clatter swallowed by the night. But freedom, true freedom, isn't just stepping out of the cage. It's learning to walk in the open air, without building new walls. What shapes those walls? The silent, relentless stories we tell ourselves in the dark hours. Stories written in an ink we never chose. What if you could dip the pen yourself and rewrite the shadows? Chapter 8. The Inkwell of the Soul. How to rewrite the stories that haunt you at 3 a.m. That hour, you know it. When the world is reduced to the sound of your own breath, the press of the pillow, and the relentless projector in your mind, replaying the awkward moment, the sharp word you regret, or the one that wounded you. The looming deadline, monstrous in the silence. The old grief, surfacing like a cold stone from the depths. 3 a.m. the hour of ghosts. Not specters from tombs, but ghosts of thought. Epictetus, in his bare room, understood this theater of the mind. He saw how we are not merely disturbed by events, but by the stories we inscribe upon them, deep in the private inkwell of our soul, ink that stains the fabric of our nights. What if that inkwell wasn't a curse, but a tool? What if the haunting narratives could be rewritten, not with denial, but with a different kind of truth? What becomes of the soul that lets its darkest whispers author its reality? Feel the quiet now, deeper. The first stirrings of sleep might be brushing the edges of your mind like cobwebs. Resist just a little longer. We're going into the scriptorium of the soul. Picture it, not grand, not brightly lit, more like a monk's cell high in a tower. A single desk scarred with use, a single candle, its light pooling on parchment, and an inkwell, deep, dark. This is where you sit. Every impression, every event that brushes against your senses lands on this desk like a blank scroll, raw, undefined, neutral. Then, your hand reaches for the pen, your hand, dipped into your inkwell, and you begin to write. This is terrible. This means I am failing. This proves I am unloved. This will ruin everything. They did this to hurt me. The story flows, dark and certain, and that story is what pierces your peace, not the event itself. Epictetus leans over your shoulder in the flickering candlelight, his voice a murmur lost to history, but echoing here, now. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. The event is the blank parchment, the story, the ink, that's yours, wholly yours. That's the power and the peril. Think of rain falling on a dusty street. Just rain, water from the sky. Now, the traveler caught without a cloak. What story does he write? Curse this weather. It ruins everything. Why does this always happen to me? The world is against me. His ink is bitterness, frustration. His night will be sour. Now, the farmer whose fields are parched. He feels the same rain on his skin. What story does he write? Bless this rain, my crops, my life. The earth drinks, and so do I. His ink is gratitude, relief. His night will be peaceful, hopeful. Same rain. Different stories, different worlds created within the soul. The haunting at 3 a.m. It's rarely the raw event replaying. It's the story you wrote about it, the judgment, the meaning you assigned. She didn't smile back. Therefore she dislikes me. Therefore I am unlikable. Therefore I will be alone. See the chain? Forged link by your pen, dipped in the inkwell of your assumptions, your fears, your past hurts. Epictetus offers a radical act of freedom. Interrogate the story. Before the ink dries, before the narrative hardens into painful fact, pause. Hold the parchment up to the candlelight. Ask the quiet, relentless questions. Is this true? Not does it feel true, but is it demonstrably, undeniably, objectively true? She didn't smile back. That might be observable. Therefore she dislikes me. Is that true? Could she have been preoccupied, distracted by her own pain? Simply not seen you? The leap from observation to damning conclusion. That's where the story takes flight, often straight into the realm of painful fiction. Therefore I am unlikable. An even greater leap, painting your entire being with one brushstroke, based on one unverified interpretation. Therefore I will be alone. A prophecy of doom written in the ink of fear. The 3 a.m. haunting is the echo of these unchecked stories, hardening like cement in the silence. How to rewrite, not with forced, brittle positivity, not by slapping a happy ending onto a tale of woe, but by returning to the raw parchment, to the neutral event. The rain fell. She didn't smile back. The project is challenging. The past event happened. That is the stone-cold fact. Now, dip your pen again, consciously, deliberately. What other stories could be true? She didn't smile back. Perhaps she had troubling news today, a story of empathy. The project is challenging. This is an opportunity to learn something new, to grow stronger, a story of growth. The past event happened. It hurt deeply, and it taught me about my own resilience, about what truly matters, a story of integration, not victimhood. You choose the ink. You choose the narrative. The external fact remains unchanged. The rain still fell, but the meaning, the story you live within, that shifts, and with it, the quality of your inner night. This isn't easy. The old stories are grooves worn deep in the soul's parchment. They feel familiar, even comforting in their painful certainty. Writing new ones requires vigilance. It requires catching the pen as it dips into the old, bitter inkwell. It requires the courage to write a different sentence, even when the old narrative screams its familiarity. But with each conscious rewrite, the haunting lessens. The 3 a.m. ghosts lose their power. They become simply memories, facts, stripped of the self-lacerating stories you once draped over them. You reclaim the inkwell. You become the author, not the victim, of your inner landscape. Tonight, as the quiet deepens, listen to the stories your mind whispers. Don't fight them. Observe them. Hold them gently. Ask, is this the only story? Is this truly, irrevocably, the truth? Then, with the tenderness you'd offer a frightened child, dip your pen into a different ink. Write a sentence of possibility, of nuance, of quiet strength. Rewrite the shadow, one word, one breath at a time. The dawn will find you lighter, the author of a gentler night. The pen grows still, the ink dries to a softer hue. But the soul, truly free, doesn't just write peaceful stories. It learns to walk unflinching through the world's inevitable stings. It discovers a strange strength, not in comfort, but in willingly touching the rough grain of life. Where does such courage bloom? In the quiet practice of sacred hunger. Chapter 9. The Sacred Hunger. What starving teaches that feasting cannot. We spend our lives building fortresses against discomfort, soft beds against the hard ground, full bellies against the gnaw of hunger, constant connection against the ache of solitude, warmth against the bite of cold. And yet, deep within the human spirit, beneath the layers of sought-after ease, there's a whisper, a recognition that something vital, something like a hidden muscle of the soul, withers when it never meets resistance. Epictetus, the former slave who knew the sharp edge of deprivation, didn't preach austerity for its own sake. He pointed towards a secret path, a practice as counterintuitive as it is liberating. Voluntary discomfort, the sacred hunger, not punishment, not masochism, but a deliberate, gentle touching of life's rougher textures to remember your own invincible core. What happens to the soul that knows only fullness? It forgets its own strength. It fears the slightest draft. What pearl forms within the oyster that never feels the grain of sand? Picture a sheltered plant, nurtured only in the perfect, controlled environment of a greenhouse. Lush, green, seemingly thriving. Now transplant it, suddenly, into the wild garden. The wind tugs, the sun burns, the rain lashes, it wilts, it struggles. It may not survive. Its roots, never tested, never stretched to find deeper water, never hardened against the elements, are shallow, weak. Now picture the seedling that sprouted in a crack in the ancient stone wall, bent by wind from its first moments, knowing thirst, knowing the scorch of sun. Its roots, seeking moisture in the tiniest fissures, grow tough, tenacious, deep. It bends, but rarely breaks. It learns the language of resilience in a harsh dialect. Epictetus, in his threadbare cloak, would look at the greenhouse plant with a kind of pity. He would see the wall seedling as kin. His philosophy wasn't about becoming the wall seedling by force of cruel fate, but about choosing, deliberately, wisely, to step out of the perfect greenhouse sometimes, to feel the wind, to know a little hunger, to embrace a little cold, to court solitude, to strengthen the roots of the soul before the storm hits. Difficulties show men what they are, he said. Why wait for the storm to reveal your foundations? Why not test them gently, by choice, in the calm? Feel the comfort surrounding you now, the softness, the warmth, the safety. It's a gift, truly. But within that gift lies a subtle seduction. The seduction of forgetting. Forgetting that you are more than this comfort. That your spirit is forged in fire, not coddled in down. The sacred hunger is a remembering. It's choosing, perhaps tomorrow, to walk instead of drive. To feel the muscles work, the air on your face, the slight fatigue, not as punishment, but as a whisper. You are alive. You can move. You can endure. It's choosing the simple meal, the water instead of the sweet drink. Not denying pleasure, but clearing the palate of the soul, feeling the genuine, uncomplicated gratitude for sustenance. Remembering that fullness is a gift, not a given. It's sitting quietly, alone, without the screen, without the noise, letting the silence press in, listening to the rustle of your own thoughts, the beat of your own heart, discovering you are still there, whole, even when the world's chatter fades. It's stepping into the cool morning air, without the extra layer, feeling the prickle on the skin, the slight shiver, and realizing, this is sensation, this is life, I feel it, I am not destroyed by it, I am here. This is not about seeking pain, it's about dissolving fear, the fear that whispers, if I lose this comfort, I am lost. If I feel that discomfort, I will shatter. Epictetus called it hardening yourself against non-preferred indifference. Cold, heat, thirst, hunger, weariness, solitude. These are neither good nor evil in themselves. They simply are, like the wind, like the rain. Your power lies not in banishing them, an impossible task, but in removing the terror you attach to them. By voluntarily touching them, briefly, gently, you learn their true nature. You learn your true nature in response. You discover an inner furnace you didn't know you possessed. You find that the roots of your being go deeper than the reach of mere physical discomfort. The feast of constant ease dulls the senses. The sacred hunger, the voluntary, mindful brush with the indifferent, sharpens them. It teaches gratitude for the warmth by knowing the cool. It teaches appreciation for abundance by knowing sufficiency. It teaches the profound comfort of connection by knowing the strength found in one's own company. Imagine facing a true hardship, loss, illness, profound change, without ever having tested your inner resilience. The fortress of comfort crumbles, revealing only panic, fragility, the terror of the greenhouse plant. Now imagine facing that same hardship, having practiced the sacred hunger, having walked in the cold and known you were still you, having sat with silence and found it companionable, not terrifying, having known simple food and felt gratitude, not deprivation. Your roots are deep. You know, bone deep, that discomfort is a wave that washes over, but it does not define the ocean floor of your being. You know you can endure. You know you can find stillness within the storm, because you've practiced finding it within the gentle breeze. The sacred hunger isn't about loving hardship. It's about fearing it less. It's about knowing, with unshakable certainty, that your peace, your worth, your core, these are not housed in the soft bed or the full plate. They are within, unassailable, fortified by every small voluntary step beyond the walls of perfect ease. Tonight, as you drift in your comfort, feel a quiet gratitude for it, and perhaps tomorrow, offer your soul the gentle gift of a small hunger, a touch of the rough grain, a moment of quiet wind against your skin. Remember the roots, feel them grow stronger, deeper, into the unshakable ground of your own invincible spirit. The feast will taste sweeter, the night will hold less fear, and the strength you cultivate will be yours forever. Sleep now. The whispers are done. The seeds are sown. Rest deep. Chapter 10. The Unseen Fortress, where your true kingdom waits in the dark. Close your eyes for a moment. Can you feel it? Not the weight of the blanket, not the quiet of the room, but the space just behind your thoughts. A hollow place, sometimes echoing with the day's clamor, sometimes tight with tomorrow's dread. What if I told you that space isn't empty at all? What if, deep within that inner silence, Epictetus, a man who knew chains more intimately than most, know freedom, built a fortress? Not of stone and iron, but of will and quiet understanding. A place the world cannot touch, cannot break, cannot even truly see. And what if the key to that fortress has been lying forgotten in the dust of centuries, waiting for a weary hand like yours to find it tonight? To ignore it is to leave your soul forever exposed to the storm. But to find it, that is where true peace begins, even here, in the vulnerable dark. Imagine him, not as a statue, cold and distant on a plinth, but as flesh and bone, worn thin. Epictetus, born a slave, his body, property, his time, not his own, his very movements dictated by another's whim. Can you feel the crushing weight of that? The utter lack of dominion over the physical world? His days began not with choice, but with command. His nights, who knows what shadows filled them? Yet within that crushing reality, something astonishing took root. Not rebellion with fists, but rebellion with the mind. He discovered a territory no master could ever claim, no whip could ever scar, an inner citadel. Think of it, a castle built not on a hilltop, visible to all, but deep within the hidden valleys of consciousness. Its walls, not stone but discernment, the fierce, quiet power to say, this is mine and that is not. Its moat, the clear, cold water of understanding what truly belongs to us. You see, Epictetus looked out at the chaos of the world, the loss, the betrayal, the relentless push and pull of fortune, and he saw a fundamental, aching error. We spend our lives, our precious energy, our very breath, trying to command the wind. We build elaborate sails, chart impossible courses, rage against the calm, or tremble before the gale, forgetting the wind was never ours to command. Our opinions? We clutch them like jewels, demanding the world admire them, polish them, agree with them, and suffer exquisite torment when they are ignored, or worse, trampled. Our reputation? We hang it like a fragile ornament in the public square, flinching at every passing glance, every whispered word that might tarnish it. But Epictetus whispers across the centuries, his voice as soft as worn leather, as strong as ironwood. What is up to us? Our judgments, our impulses, our desires, our aversions. In a word, whatever is our own doing. And what is not? Our bodies, our property, our reputation, our office. In a word, whatever is not our own doing. Feel the shift? Like a sigh of profound relief in a cramped room. The body ages, gets sick, falters. That is the wind blowing. Property can be lost, stolen, ruined, the indifferent tide receding. Reputation is a story told by others, shaped by 1,000 tongues you cannot control. Office, power given, power taken away, none of it is the true kingdom. The fortress lies elsewhere. Picture your own worries now, the ones that chase you into this quiet space, that lingering tension from a difficult conversation. Is it truly the words spoken that bind you? Or is it your judgment of those words? Your story about what they mean for your worth, your future? That anxiety about tomorrow's meeting, the outcome you cannot guarantee. Is it the event itself that holds the knife to your peace? Or your desire for it to unfold only one specific way? Your aversion to any other possibility? Epictetus doesn't dismiss the sting of the world. He hands you a salve for the soul. Recognize the boundary. What is yours? Your response, your focus, your inner stance. What is not yours? Everything else. This fortress isn't built in a day. Its stones are laid moment by moment, choice by quiet choice. When anger flares hot because the traffic snarls, the train is late, the milk spills. That is the outer world rattling the gates. The fortress whispers, this delay, this spill, is it truly evil? Or is it merely inconvenient? Your judgment makes it so. You choose whether to man the battlements in a fury, wasting your inner strength on the unconquerable wind, or to retreat within, tend your inner fire, and conserve your power for what truly matters, your character, your next right action. When praise comes, sweet and heady, do you let it define you, inflate you, make you dependent on its next sweet dose? The fortress is cool, shadowed. This acclaim, is it yours? Or is it simply sound in the air, shaped by another's fleeting opinion? Enjoy it, yes, like sunshine. But don't build your home upon it. And when criticism bites, sharp and cold, the same strong walls rise. Is this condemnation truth? Or merely another gust of wind? If truth, learn. If wind, let it howl outside. It cannot freeze the hearth within. This is the profound, almost haunting secret Epictetus offers for the restless nights. Your peace was never out there. It never depended on the promotion, the perfect relationship, the world behaving as you wished. It resides here, in this breath, in this moment, in the unshakable understanding of what is truly yours to govern, the landscape of your own mind. To forget this, to spend your nights tossing as you try to rearrange the stars or silence the ocean, is the deepest exhaustion. But to remember, to feel the solidity of that inner ground beneath you, even as the outer world quakes, that is the beginning of a sleep undisturbed. The fortress isn't built to shut out life. It's built so you can step out into life's storms, knowing you always have a place of perfect calm to return to. A kingdom no darkness can touch, guarded only by your own quiet awareness. And so, within these unseen walls, a stillness settles. But wait, listen closer. Beneath the quiet, another truth breathes. If the fortress protects what is ours, what then of everything outside its gates? The losses, the pains, the sharp stones on the path. Must we merely endure them? Or is there a deeper embrace? A way to not just withstand the storm, but to find an unexpected grace within its very heart. The night holds its breath. Chapter 11. Kissing the Wave, the haunting freedom in loving what must be. That sigh of relief. It feels good, doesn't it? Knowing the storm can rage out there, but in here, a space of calm. Yet, a whisper of unease remains. What about the storm itself? The real losses? The genuine pain? The diagnosis that lands like a stone in the stomach? The goodbye that leaves the air thin and cold? Is the fortress merely a place to hide? To endure with clenched teeth? Epictetus, who knew the lash, who knew the bitter taste of true helplessness, offers a truth so radical, so counter to every screaming nerve in our being, it feels almost like a secret whispered against the wind. He asks not for endurance, but for love, not resignation, but a profound, almost shocking embrace. He called it amor fati, the love of fate. And to ignore this is to forever fight the current of existence, exhausting your soul against the unyielding river. But to understand it is to discover a freedom so vast it feels like flying even when the ground falls away. Think of a wave, not a gentle lapping at the shore, but a towering wall of water, dark and inevitable, rising before you. Instinct screams, fight, flee, every muscle tenses, panic claws at the throat. This is loss, this is illness, this is betrayal. This is the shattering of a dream held close. Our natural response is resistance. We push back with denial, with rage, with bargaining, with a grief that feels like drowning. We curse the wave. We call it unfair, monstrous, wrong. We exhaust ourselves trying to hold back the ocean. Epictetus, standing on the shore of his own hardships, watched this struggle play out in countless souls. And he saw the hidden cost. The exhaustion wasn't just physical. It was the soul itself, fraying against the immovable rock of reality. He proposed a different posture, not surrender as defeat, but acceptance as profound strength. Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly. Kiss the wave. That's the haunting heart of it. Not because the wave is good, not because the pain isn't real, but because the wave is. It is reality crashing upon you in this exact moment. Fighting what is like trying to argue with gravity. It drains you. It changes nothing. Kissing the wave isn't passivity. It's the ultimate act of inner sovereignty. It's saying, this has happened. I acknowledge its reality. I stop wasting my precious inner fire raging against the undeniable. Feel the difference? Like unclenching a fist you didn't know was tight. The wave still hits. It may still hurt. But the energy you spent fighting its existence is now freed. Freed for what? For the only thing that ever mattered, your response within your fortress. How will you meet this? With courage? With compassion for yourself? With the clarity to see the next small step? The wave doesn't care if you kiss it or curse it. It simply is. But you care. Your peace depends on where you place your focus. Imagine two travelers on a stony path. One stumbles over every rock, curses the sun, bemoans the distance, rails against the map. Every step is agony, resentment a heavy cloak. The other traveler sees the same rocks, feels the same sun, walks the same distance, but they see the path as it is. They accept the stones. They feel the sun's heat without demanding it be cooler. They walk the distance without wishing it shorter. Their energy goes not into cursing the unchangeable terrain, but into placing their feet with care, finding moments of shade, noticing the hawk circling high above. Who arrives less broken? Who carries a quieter mind? The path didn't change. Their relationship to the path changed everything. This is amor fati, Loving fate isn't about enjoying the stones. It's about freeing your attention from the futile battle against them, so you can navigate the path with whatever grace and strength you possess. Now, bring it into the quiet of this room, that lingering regret, the if only that circles like a moth in the dark. If only I'd said this. If only they hadn't done that. If only the timing was different. Each if only is a tiny rebellion against what is, a refusal to kiss the wave of the past. Epictetus would gently ask, "Can you change it, truly?" The answer is the cold stone of no. So the choice remains. Do you let that unchangeable past steal your present peace? Do you chain yourself to a ghost? Or do you kiss the wave of what has happened? Acknowledge it. Feel the sorrow, yes, if it's there. But then, let the energy you've spent wrestling the ghost flow back into now, into the feel of this sheet, the sound of your breath, the simple fact of being alive in this moment. The future? A vast, uncertain sea. Worry tries to map it, control it, demand guarantees. But the future is wind, unpredictable. Amor Fati whispers, wish for life to unfold as it will, not because you know it will be easy, but because wishing otherwise is wishing against reality itself. Free your mind from the impossible burden of dictating the tides. Focus instead on building the strongest, calmest vessel within you, your judgments, your intentions, your character, ready to meet whatever wave rises. This is the deep healing Epictetus offers for the wounds that keep us awake. It doesn't erase the scar. It changes the story we tell about it. The loss becomes part of the landscape, not an open chasm. The mistake becomes a stone on the path you've learned to walk around, not a pit you keep falling into. It's the haunting freedom of releasing the world from the obligation to be other than it is. The wave isn't your enemy. Your resistance to the wave is the true thief of peace. To kiss it is to reclaim your soul from an unwinnable war, and in that surrender to what is, lies an unexpected, profound strength, a stillness that runs deeper than any storm. Freedom, found not in controlling the wave, but in releasing our grip on the need to control it. A profound peace. Yet, a question lingers in the candle's flicker. If we cannot command the world, and we must embrace what comes, does action lose its meaning? Are we merely leaves on the stream? Or is there a fire to be tended? A different kind of work, urgent and vital, waiting not out there, but right here, within the fortress walls. The night deepens. Listen for the spark. Listen. Chapter 12. The fire in the cup of your hands, where your true power burns unseen. So here we stand within the quiet fortress, watching the waves rise and fall, learning not to curse them, but to meet them. A deep calm settles, but is that all? Is peace merely the absence of struggle, a quiet resignation? Epictetus, the former slave who taught emperors, would shake his head, a gentle, firm motion. The stillness we've found, it isn't an end. It's the fertile ground, the cleared space. Because within these walls, protected from the howling winds of circumstance, burns the only fire that truly matters. Your fire, your will, your purpose. Neglect this flame and the fortress becomes a tomb, a beautiful, silent emptiness. But tend it. Oh, tend it with the fierce focus of someone who knows this is their only true possession, and watch how it illuminates the path, not just for you, but for every shadow it touches. This is where philosophy becomes life, and to sleep without knowing this is to sleep on embers, unaware of the warmth you could be breathing into the world. Epictetus drew a line in the sand of the soul, a line sharper than any sword. On one side, ta f hemen, the things that are up to us, our judgments, our desires, our aversions, our impulses, our inner world, the territory of the fortress. On the other, ta'uk f hemen, everything else, the vast churning sea of the external world, the dichotomy of control. It sounds simple, almost deceptively so, but its power is volcanic. He didn't draw this line to encourage passivity. He drew it to focus action, to redirect our precious finite energy, our life force, away from the exhausting, futile battle against the unconquerable, and into the fertile, waiting soil of the only ground we can ever truly cultivate, ourselves. Imagine a gardener, he might say. A foolish gardener spends their days shaking their fist at the clouds for too much rain, or not enough, cursing the bugs that fly in from a neighbor's yard, lamenting the quality of soil they inherited. They exhaust themselves, and their garden suffers. The wise gardener, they know the clouds, the bugs, the soil type. These are not theirs to command. So they turn their full attention, their sweat, their care, to what is within their plot, planting the right seeds, pulling the weeds that appear, watering when they can, nurturing the tender shoots. Their garden may not be perfect by some external standard, but it flourishes with the effort applied where it actually makes a difference. This is the fire in the cup of your hands, your plot, your inner garden. Your sphere of action is breathtakingly intimate, yet infinitely powerful. It begins and ends with prohairesis, your moral purpose, your faculty of choice. Every single moment presents a choice, small or vast, about how you meet the world from within your fortress. That difficult conversation, you cannot control the other person's words, their tone, their reactions, the unconquerable wind. But up to you, your preparation, entering with clarity and calm, not resentment, your intent to understand or to state your truth with kindness, not to wound or win. Your focus, listening deeply, not just waiting to speak. Your response, choosing reason over rage, compassion over contempt, even if the other offers neither. That is your garden. Tend it fiercely. The job application? You cannot control who else applies, the hiring manager's mood, the unseen biases, the wave. But up to you, crafting the application with care and honesty, researching thoroughly, presenting yourself with quiet confidence, not arrogance, preparing thoughtfully, and then, the hardest, most vital tending, releasing the outcome. Knowing you did your work within your sphere, your garden is weeded, watered. The harvest? Not yours to command. This is where Epictetus becomes not just calming, but quietly revolutionary. He shifts the entire locus of meaning. Success isn't the promotion, the perfect outcome, the world's applause. Those are wins. True, success lies solely in the quality of your choices within your sphere. Did you act with integrity, with courage, with justice, with self-discipline? Did you tend your inner fire with respect? That is the harvest. That is the measure. It transforms waiting rooms from torture chambers into spaces of quiet dignity. It transforms failures from indictments into lessons, observed from the solid ground of your fortress. It transforms ordinary moments, washing the dish, listening to a friend, facing a fear, into sacred acts of tending your true kingdom. Because every choice, no matter how small, is a brick laid in the character you are building. Every time you choose reason over reaction, kindness over pettiness, courage over cowardice, within the only arena you control, you strengthen the fortress walls. You feed the flame, feel the weight lift. The crushing pressure to make the world conform dissolves. It's replaced by a different kind of responsibility, profound, personal, immediate. The responsibility to show up fully, here, now, in this choice. Not for the result, but for the sake of the action itself. For the integrity of your own soul. This is the fire that warms you from within on the coldest night. This is the light that guides you, not by illuminating the whole path, but by showing you the very next step within your control. To sleep without tending this fire is to risk waking to embers grown cold, a sense of drift, a life spent reacting to winds and waves, never truly acting from that deep inner core of purpose. But to tend it, to feel the heat of your own conscious choices warming your hands, that is to carry a sun within you. A sun that makes even the longest night feel purposeful. A sun that doesn't promise to banish all shadows, but ensures you will never walk in total darkness. Your true power was never over the storm. It is the quiet, unyielding flame you guard within. Tending it is the only work that truly matters, the only work that can never be taken from you, the only work that leads, inevitably, to peace. So guard your fortress, love the wave, tend your fire, and sleep now, knowing the truest kingdom was always yours. Rest deep, the night holds you.